of that. So a couple of weeks back, we were reviewing verse 8. So if you remember, this is a systematic exposition of Vedanta. And what we saw was, right, initially we said, where exactly is the role of knowledge and what exactly is the role of other practices, if you remember. So we said, right, there is no choice for self-realization or for getting freed from all the sufferings. The only means is knowledge. So Shankaracharya gave a beautiful example. The example is of cooking. So even if you need tools like vessel, the water and everything, ultimately the cooking is done with fire. So just like that, even though the other practices can help you, but it is the knowledge that is going to give you the moksha. So that point we saw, and then we try to understand actually what is the nature of the reality, right? We saw that everything in the universe has emerged from that one absolute reality. We talked about this a lot in the Bhagavad Gita also. The cause of the universe is one, and we call it as Brahman or the reality. And the verses like 8 and 9 and a couple of verses prior to that, that is going to talk. So even though we saw the verse 8, we will just review that once again and then we will go to verse 9. So let's listen. So we saw the literal meaning last week, right? So upadhane akhila adhare jaganti parameshwari. So the entire world, whatever you see, right? When you open your eyes and you see whatever, like whether it is the sun and the moon and the stars, or whether it is the plant, animal or human, anything you can see, whether it is your dream or whatever happens outside, everything is manifested from Parameshwara. Remember, this is the topic. So, upadhane akhiladhare. So, the material cause of the entire universe is Ishvara, or the Brahman, or the absolute reality. So, this is the topic. Upadhane akhila adhare. So, every other object, its existence depends upon something else. And that something else is called Brahman. So I was reading Swami Vivekananda very recently. He had a talk in the World's Parliament of Religion called A Paper on Hinduism. So in that, he brings out a beautiful point. What exactly is the goal of chemistry? He was asking. The goal of the chemistry is to identify that one element or one particle with which the entire material is created. And what is the goal of physics? The physics tries to understand that unified field. Mind you, at the time of that lecture, nobody has even thought about the unification theory. It is 1893, and the unification theory, Einstein started thinking about that only in 1910 after that. So this idea, searching for the unity, is the core of every discipline of knowledge, whether it is chemistry, whether it is physics, and it is true in the spiritual world also. In the spiritual world, we look at every object in the universe and try to understand what is the fundamental cause from which all these things has emerged. So here we get an answer. Shankaracharya tells, Upadhane akhiladhare. That is the adhara, that is the support, and that is that Brahman or the Parameshwara, that is the support of everything, whether it is sun and the moon and the star, whether it is micro level and the macro level. Sarga sthiti layam yampi. Everything emerges out of that. Everything exists in that. And finally, everything goes into that. And just like the style of Atma Bodha, he tells what? Budbudaniva varini. Just like the bubble comes out of the water. So a wave or a bubble or a anything in the water, right? A bubble, let's take from where the bubble came from. What is the cause? What is the material cause of the bubble? It is water, right? The material cause of the bubble is water. And where exactly the bubble exists? It's in water. And finally, when the bubble bursts, what remains? It is water. Swami Chinmayananda used to give 3 laws of causation here. He tells every effect has a cause. Every bubble has a cause called water. And the effects are nothing but the cause itself in a different form. The effects, the bubbles, are nothing but the water in a different form. And the third rule he always talk about is, if you remove the cause from the effect, nothing remains. If you remove the water from the bubble, nothing remains. So in the same way, whether you see a sun, whether you see a phone, whether you see a computer, whether you see a human being, whether you see a plant, whatever it is, right? The cause of that object is Parameshwara, or the absolute reality, or the Brahman, whatever we call. And second thing is, the effects are nothing but, the effects are not separate from the cause. That is why he tells Upadane Akhiladhare. So it's like gold is never far away from the golden ornaments. The water is never far away from the bubbles, right? The clay is never far away from the clay pot. So just like that, Ishvara, the Parameshwara, is never far away from the manifested objects in the universe. So that is the point. So it is Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. This is what we call Brahman. If you remember the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which we were talking on the Tuesday class, we saw that. Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. So Abhinna means never separate. Nimitta Karanam, it is the one is the material cause and the other one is the intelligent cause. Every creation presupposes two things. One is called the Nimitta Karanam and the other one is called Upadana Karanam. One is material cause, the other one is intelligent cause. For example, if you need to make a pot, you need to have the material called clay and you need to have a pot maker who has the intelligence to turn that material into this particular form. So like that, the universe got manifested. What exactly is the material cause? Parameshwara, or the Brahman. And what exactly is the intelligent cause? That is also Brahman. So the whole object, Sarvasthiti means Sarga Sthiti Layam, right? Sarga means creation. Everything created or manifested from that Brahman or the Parameshwara. And everything exists in that Brahman. And finally, everything goes back into that Brahman. Sarga Sthiti Layam Yampi. And how? Just like Shankaracharya gives the brilliant example. Just like a bubble comes out of water. The bubbles comes from the water. The bubble exists because of the water. And finally, at the end of the life of bubble, nothing but water remains. Such a brilliant verse, brilliant example. Any questions? This is the essence of Vedanta. The most essence you find in Upanishad, it is captured with a brilliant verse. Excellent. Upadane khiladhare jaganti parameshware sargasthiti layam yanti buddhudani vavarini. If you remember, one of the beauty of Atma Bodha is almost every verse has one example. That's the beauty. Okay, so we saw that. Let's move to the next verse, verse 9. So another example. The previous example was what? The bubbles comes from water. Just like the bubbles comes from the water, the world comes from the Parameshwara or the Brahman. Anu, do you mind chanting this?
Satchidanatmatyasyote nitye Vishnu pradalpitaha vyaktayo vividha sarva
again the same idea that whatever you see outside, right? Whatever you see outside, because the Atma Bodha started initially by looking into yourself, and then he looked at the world, and finally he's been talking about the reality, the connection he's explaining. So Satchidatma Anatsuye. So what happened? From that Satchidananda Atma. Satchit Atma means from that, means Satchit means sentient or conscious. Sat means the absolute reality. So this entire world got manifested from that absolute reality called Brahman. And this absolute reality called as Brahman and called as Atma, it is not subjected to any change. In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we saw a lot of characteristics of this Atma, or which is called, means also known as Brahman. If you remember, the key things are Atma Satyaha, meaning Atma is the truth. It exists. Trikala Abadidam Satyam, that which is not subjected to negation at any point of time. That is what is Satyam. Then what is Atma Nityaha? It is independent of time. Like it was there in the past, it is going to be there in the future. Then Atma Sarvagataha, right? So Atma is all pervading. Atma Sthanuhu, it is stable, because the movement is possible only when, it means I can move to another place because I'm not there right now. So this Brahman is all pervading. So there is no movement. So those features we have seen about Atma. So this emerged from this Satchidatma. And what is the nature of this Satchit Atma? Nityo Vishnu Prakalpita. It's Nityaha. Nityaha means it is permanent, it is eternal, it is independent of time. And it is Vishnu. Vishnu means what? Two meaning. One is it can be called as Vishnu, but what is the literal meaning of Vishnu? Remember, we have discussed that. All pervading, exactly. Vyapaneti iti Vishnu, that which pervades everywhere. We saw another verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva, right? Vas means that resides in everything. Vasudeva means that which resides in everything. So Vishnu is pervading everywhere, just like the gold pervades all the ornaments, all the gold ornaments. Just like the clay pervades all the clay, means pots. Just like the water pervades in all the, means waves and all the bubbles. Like that, that which pervades in all the objects of the universe, conscious and unconscious. Every, means the matter and inert, every objects, whatever that perverts, that is known as Vishnu. So this nature of this absolute reality, it is Sat. Sat means absolute existence. Remember, we had this discussion on Sat. For example, can we say that what exactly is the existence of the pot? The question is it dependent upon something else for its existence? Yes, the pot is depending upon the clay for its existence. So we can say that the clay is the Adhisthana of the pot. Like that, what exactly is the Adhisthana of the entire universe? The Adhisthana of the entire universe is called Sat, and it is called Brahman, or the absolute reality. But is it inert? Absolutely not. Because if you, it is not inert, it is conscious. It can lend consciousness to all the living being. Remember, we had this long discussion. So from the Brahman or the absolute reality, what happened? The whole Apara Prakriti got evolved. Apara Prakriti means the physical and the subtle matter. The combination of that physical and subtle matter is the entire universe. So the physical matter is not capable of reflecting the consciousness, but the combination of the physical and the subtle matter can reflect the consciousness, and that is how a living being is there. So a living being has three dimensions. One is the physical body, second one is the subtle body, known as soul, and the third one is the Atma. The Atma is that which provides existence and consciousness to these bodies. So like that, So the nature of this absolute reality, it is Sat, and it is Satchid Atma, it is the essence of everything, and it is Nityaha, and it is Vishnu, meaning it is all pervading, and it is eternal. And what is going to happen? Every being, right? Every being exists in that. So every being exists in that Vishnu. And one example is given. Hatake kataka kataka with. So hataka means like a bracelet is made from the gold. The same good old example. So now you know from where we get all the examples in the Bhagavad Gita. It comes from here. So Ratnakar, you always ask me whenever I talk about the stock example. All the stock example comes from this book.
Great.
So that's why I always qualify that as stock example rather than our own examples. So this,
It's a classic example, right?
Yeah.
Stock example.
so this tells us that all the golden ornaments comes from where? Gold. The existence of the golden ornament is from the gold. The actually means it exists in, it manifested from gold, it exists in gold, and finally it goes back to gold. Like the chain may turn into a ring, but the gold remains the same. But mind you, every example has its own limitation. So don't ask me whether the gold is conscious or not. It's only material. But it's a very good example that conveys the message. So two verses, we clearly show the nature of the absolute reality, Brahman. So now the question is, if everything is came from Brahman, I am different from you, you are different from your child, you are different from your spouse, and a tree is different from you, a plant is different from you, the performance of different individual in the world is totally different. So what exactly makes that difference? If you see that there is an underlying unity, why there is a lot of difference in people and performance in color, and why there is a lot of dicing and slicing in the humanity? So he's going to answer that. Any questions here? Okay, so let's listen to Swamiji's chanting also once again, and we'll go. Yeah, once. Bhunaji, you had a question?
Just going through the description, there is a difference between Anusyate and Vishnu.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Anusyate says all pervading, the limitation of object, negates the limitation of object. But the Vishnu is telling it's omnipresent, negates the limitation of space.
Where?
So I'm trying to see the...
Where you're seeing that? In a book?
Yeah, in this Atma Bodha only.
Atma Bodha, which?
Chinmayananda Swamiji's also it says.
Which one? It's...
So the Vishnu here it says is there is he's omnipresent, which is also all pervading.
Correct.
But I'm just trying to see Anusyate, he says negates the limitation of object. That's what I want to understand.
Anasyute, yeah, that is also true. Anasyute means it negates. Anasyuta means perennial. That is another meaning, right? Continual, perennial. And if you take that meaning, that also fits very well, because if you think about there is no limitation. Typically, the limitations are imposed by three different aspects: Desha, Kala, and Vastu. So Desha means limitation by space, and Kala means limitation by time, and Vastu means limitation by being an object. So that's it. There are multiple ways of interpretation. I was following with Swami Tadatmananda. So this translation, as well as the picture, it's Swami courtesy to Swami Tadatmananda, and the chanting courtesy to Swami Brahmananda.
So the Anusyute is limitation of the negates the limitation of object, and then the pervading, all pervading refers to Anusyoti.
Yeah, because it is all referring to Atma or the Brahman. Because the idea is the whole world of names and forms, everything, the entire universe is emerged from Brahman. So the problem is you are sitting in a limited, constrained place and you are trying to understand something beyond your understanding. So what Shankaracharya or any teacher can do is give a certain words which is going to be a pointer, which describes certain aspect of that absolute reality. So certain words that are means commonly used in the scriptures are used. Sat Chit Atma, right? Sat Chit Atma means that which is the existence of everything, that which is just it's the essential consciousness. Anasyuta, if you take that way, it tells like it is not limited by any of the usual limitation. And then the Nitye Vishnu Prakalpitaha. So it is Nityaha, it is Vishnu. So a few words are used to indicate, not to define, because Swami Chinmayananda himself said to define God is to defile God. So it's impossible for us. So we are just trying to understand through some words which are common. So any scripture, if you look, these words are very common. So the Shankaracharya's idea here is that there is one source from everything has emerged out. That is point number one. Second thing is that the effects are nothing but the cause itself in a different form. So everything, including you, me, and a glass or a camera, everything, or a computer, everything itself is a cause in a different form. And the third thing is, if we take the Brahman from the world, nothing exists. So this is the message he is trying to convey. And with two brilliant examples, one is bubbles and water, and second one is the gold and the ornament. It's the best. This is the beauty of Shankara. Shankara is clear. Without this, if you go to Upanishad, it will confuse us. That's why the beauty of this book is. So since we did the introduction to Vedanta, we covered all these topics. So now it is coming through a scripture. Once again, this verses are translated. I put that here. Swami Tadatmananda is a wonderful teacher, and also the chanting is by Swami Brahmanandaji. Okay, so let's move on to the next verse. So now the question is, one appears as many. So let's try to listen to the chanting. So Anu, could you chant? Anu, you are on mute. Again, a brilliant example. So in Vedanta, we use two major methodology to explain the relationship between the absolute and the manifested world. One is called the Pratibimbavada, and the next one is called Vivartavada. This is technical, but since we are going to an advanced study, that's why I'm just bringing this out. One is called Pratibimbavada, the second one is Vivartavada. Because both these methodologies are important to demonstrate one aspect of that relationship. So Pratibimbavada tells, just like there is a sun is there, the reflection of that sun can happen in multiple buckets of water. If you remember, we spent a lot of time on that example. This is Pratibimbavada. And then the second one is called Vivartavada. Vivartavada means, right, there could be multiple pots. The space within one pot appears to be different. But it's actually, there is only one space. The limitation of that space is introduced by the pot, not the space. So for example, you all are sitting in a room. You think that the space within that room is isolated. But we are not understanding the fact that the space limitation is introduced by the house. If the walls was not there, there is only one space which is all pervaded. But when we put space, means upadhis, or in between some additional equipments, what happens? The one space appears to be divided. So like that, the manifestation of the Brahman is one, but because of the upadhis, which is because of the bodies, because there are millions or billions of different bodies, different types of bodies in the world. So because of that bodies exist, one appears as many. So this is brilliantly explained by this verse. Yatha kasho rishikesha. So he tells just like the space, Rishikesha, Ishvara is like that. That is what Yathaka, just like the space, Ishvara is like that. What happens? What happens to the space? Space, what happens is, because of different upadhis, the one space appears to be different. Like every room appears to have its own space. Like that, the one absolute reality Brahman appears to be different, divided, because of the different upadhis. Upadhis here means different manifestations. So in the absence of that pots or the bodies, what happens? There is only one space undivided. Just like that, there is only one consciousness undivided. So this is the next example. So once again, Vedanta has two different schools. Means they are not contradictory. In fact, they are complementary. One is called Pradibimbavada and the other one is called Vivartavada. So here we are using the Vivartavada. There is one space appears to be different because of the different houses. I feel that the space I am sitting is limited by these walls. But I am not understanding the fact that this limitation is imposed by what? The walls. And when the walls go away, what is going to happen? The walls goes away, the space appears to be common. So the idea is the all-pervading space appears to be diverse on the account of the association with various conditioning. So just like that, the space appears to be separate because of the walls. Just like that, the absolute reality, Brahman, appears to be different because of different bodies in which it manifests. So once you transcend that, there is only one absolute reality. So again, try to understand what exactly Shankara is trying to say. Shankara is saying that the cause is only one. We all are essentially came from one source. Again, he is describing the absolute reality. So the flow is, right, now he's going to talk a little bit about the adhyasa. Adhyasa means, so if my real nature is this absolute reality, why I feel separate? So he's going to say that, what exactly is going to happen. If you remember our Vedanta class, we had one class called Identification and Attachment, and this is exactly what is he coming to. So one more point here is that, like, the different body is there, so you appears to be there is different jiva. One more example, if you take the Pradibimbavada also, this will make very clear. So let's say that there is one sun and there is 100 buckets, and how many, if you really look at the buckets, how many suns you will see? 100 suns. And in fact, how many suns are there? Only one sun. So just like that, the Brahman, absolute reality, when it manifests through different body, it appears to be separate, but essentially the reality is only one. So when you move away, when you destroy these identification, you see that unity. So that's what it is. Somebody had a question?
Yeah, I have a question here.
Sure.
When we say the Brahman is all prevalent, all existent, and why is the difference comes up when the soul, when it gets into the body, why do we get lot of differences?
Good question, but the simple answer is, we all know that the gold is one. Why a bangle is different from an earring? Why an earring is different from another ornament. So the manifestation of that reality, it varies, and it varies infinitesimally. And if you extend that example to the living and non-living being, right, what happens is, this world, what we call it as only a relative reality, because it exists for some time and it finally merges back, goes away. That is a relative reality. So within this relative reality, the individuals are born, and the manifestation of that individual is based on the karma. So we had that extensive discussion of that karma theory. So based on the karma, I appear here, and there could be apparent difference, but the difference I feel only because I identify myself with my physical body or the soul. If I shift my identity to Atma, this difference will disappear, because right now for example, let's say that ornament has a life, ornament has a mind, mind. The ornament can, if the ornament identify itself as a small ring, then what he thinks, I was born at a point of time, right, and I am changing, like I get some scratches, all that is happening throughout my life, and eventually what is going to happen, that gold ornaments, that ring will cease to exist. So if I identify myself with that ring, I will suffer with all the problems of that ring. But if I shift my identity from that ring to the gold, which is the absolute existence, then I know that, okay, means this is only a manifestation. I never cease to exist. So a living being, as explained by Vedanta, has three dimensions. One is the physical dimension, Shankaracharya is going to talk about in the next couple of verses. And the second dimension is the subtle dimension, and which is called soul, loosely translated as soul. And the third dimension is called Atma, which is the all-pervading reality. Because it means the existence of this physical and subtle body, it is from Atma, and the consciousness is also coming from Atma. The problem is that I have a wrong self-identity. I identify with a gadget given to me rather than the true me. So this is the Vedantic explanation. Now the very important question you may ask, you didn't ask, but I will answer. So you all can ask, why did a perfect Brahman became a limited, manifested as an limited individual body?
Correct.
Answer is, we don't know. So go back to Swami Vivekananda's famous lecture on Hinduism in the World's Parliament of Religion. He himself raised this question. He said that why the perfect seems to be imperfect, at least on a transactional level. He himself answered, I am bold enough to say that I don't know.
Oh.
And he tells, right, why?
Yeah.
Why that is, he gives a logical explanation also. So I am sitting in a framework which is conditioned by space and time, and I'm trying to understand something which is beyond that framework. So it's like, let's say that an amoeba. What is the lifespan of an amoeba? Anybody? Let's assume a day, maximum, a few hours, that's it, right? So if an amoeba tried to comprehend the life of Einstein, we can only laugh, right? Like that, we are sitting here and try to understand the all-pervading reality, right? Infinity, like, remember I referred a talk to all of you, God Defined. It's a brilliant talk. It is by Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, who is a great advisor of us. Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, who is the head of Ramakrishna Mission, New York. He gave a brilliant talk in Los Angeles. It is called God Defined. He defines very scientifically the nature of different aspect of Ishvara there. So he extract this Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It is from the Taittiriya Upanishad, and he unfolds each verse. And there, one of the words he spent a lot of time, which I really liked, is the word Anantam, infinite. What is that infinite? So we talked about that. Desha, Kala, Vastu. It's not limited by Desha. It is not limited by time. It is not limited by Vastu. So this is what it is. Any other questions? Thank you. That's a good question. So let's go to the final verse. And today I have a hard stop at 9:25. So let's chant this next verse. Anu, could you please chant? Another brilliant example to make us understand the relationship between the Brahman and the world. So in the previous verse, we saw that the space is only one, but because of this upadhi or the conditioning, it appears to be different. So just like that, the whole world is nothing but Brahman, or if you take the humanity, the entire humanity is only one. And if somebody has this knowledge, he cannot but see everybody with sama bhavana, right? So the famous verse of the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, right? Vidya Vinaya Sampanno Brahmana Hasti. I forgot the entire verse. The verse tells that the person Pandita Samadarshinaha. That is the whole idea. If Pandita means the one who has known the truth. It is not the Panda, typical Panda you see in all these places. No, it's not the English word Pandit. Pandita means Atma Vishaye Buddhi, the one who understands the Atma properly. He is Samadarshina. And Krishna goes to the extremes, right? He tells, he see a learned spiritual master, a cow, a elephant, a dog, and a dog eater exactly the same. Everything else is apparent. The truth is everybody is a manifestation of that truth. So you can understand there is no meaning to this caste system and everything. So nanopati, because he tells the attributes of the bodies. Because of the attributes of the body, like jati, varna, all these things, status. So varna means what? The temperament. Some people appears to be more spiritual. Some people appears to be a little bit more active. Some people appears to be very lazy, and some people appear to be business oriented. So this is the varna. Varna is not by caste. Varna is not by birth at all. We have seen that in the Bhagavad Gita. But here thing is that why some person is more spiritually oriented, and why some people is materially oriented, and why means some people are varna and ashrama, right? Means the color. Some people are black, some people are white, some people are brown, different color. So the color, the varna, and the status, everything is because of the upadhis, because of the various conditioning, because of your life experience, because of your genetics, because of your upbringing, or because of the education you got. All these factors determines the difference. But the underlying reality is the same. Because what happens? The Atma, which is pure, which is conscious, which is existence, appears to be constrained because of these different attributes we accumulate. So for example, means I'm dominated by sattva guna. So I appears to be like a particular varna. If I appears to be dominated with rajasic guna, I appears to be another varna. But the underlying Atma is the same. That is the point. So Shankaracharya brings out another brilliant example. He tells like water, like you have Coke, you have say Sprite, and you have Fanta. All these things appears to have different color. But what exactly is the essence or the fundamental material by which all these Fanta or Sprite or Coke is made? Water. It is only the additional flavor that make it appears to be different. But the essence of that drink, essence of all the drink is water. So like that Shankaracharya tells. So different taste and colors are superimposed on water. I don't know what type of drink he had at that point of time, but modern times it is very easy to explain with all these different soft drinks with various colors and shape. So these colors and taste are provided by the flavors added to the water. But the real constituent of all these drinks are nothing but water. So like that, the essence of every individual is Atma. But then what happened? Your nature, your mind, your body, everything is going to determine the difference. And your mind and body, it comes to you because of your karma and your upbringing and your social, your prayatna. Your prayatna and your karma determines who you are, right? And who means what exactly is your body and your mind is. And your body and mind is going to determine how you manifest in the world outside. But the underlying reality of everything is the same. So this is the verse 11. Any question? Another brilliant verses. Each of these verses are worth to contemplate. When you contemplate on these verses, the meaning becomes very, very, very clear.
One other question I have.
Please.
See, when we are deeply into the spiritual sadhana, though we appear very sophisticated and though we appear in a very, very, we may exteriorly possess the sattvic guna, but all the cruel and the venomous thoughts and everything comes deeply from our mind. Why is that? Where did we get all these from?
Okay, this is again a good question. So these thoughts are coming from our own vasanas, right? So why my mind is thinking in a particular way. So first thing is you yourself answered that. The different types of thoughts comes to my mind. We call it as chitta vritti. We are going to see that a little bit later in the Atma Bodha. And also this is the theme of the entire yoga. So the chitta vrittis are determined by what is stored as vasanas or unconscious means or my impressions. Vasana means what? Vasana means, suppose if I cut onion, after some time I might have forgotten, but that smell is there. So vasana is defined most brilliantly by Swami Vivekananda. So Swami Vivekananda in his commentary on Patanjali Yoga Sutra defines this as any thought any action you entertain, any words you speak, any thought you entertain, and any emotion will feel, right? It leaves a footprint in your mind with a possibility of a future thought, emotion, or word or an action. This is the best, most brilliant definition. And Patanjali tells, right, when it rains in the top of a hill first, the water may flow in all direction. But if you happen to send that water through one channel multiple times, what is going to happen? The automatic thoughts comes to your mind will flow in that direction, through that canal, through that channel. So what happens is because of our habitual actions, either from this life or coming from the past life, I have created certain neural pathways. So my brain is supposed to think only in that way. And this is the biggest obstacle for any spiritual practice. So that is why the teachers are giving us two practices before this knowledge can work. Anybody can tell me that two practices, if you remember? What is the first two practices before coming to knowledge?
Upasana yoga
and karma yoga.
Karma yoga.
Right? So what is the goal of the karma yoga? Since this particular question came in, the karma yoga, the technical term is, it is mala nivritti. It purifies all the impurities from your mind. So right now my mind is a garbage, and that garbage I myself accumulated from all the past interactions, either from this life or from the past life. So before I do anything, I need to have a process by which I can flush out all these impurities from my mind. So Karma Yoga is going to give me Chitta Shuddhi. So a process is defined. So we are going to see that from the next week in our Bhagavad Gita class, Sunday class, right? We are getting into Karma Yoga. So far we did the marketing of the Karma Yoga. Krishna did that, if you remember. And then we are getting into Karma Yoga. So once the mind is purified, what is the next step? The purified mind still can be turbulent. So you need to have some discipline to keep the mind stable. So the stability and purity is the first goal of any spiritual practice. And the prescription given to these practices is, one is Karma Yoga, which is going to give me Chitta Shuddhi, and then the Upasana Yoga, which is going to give me Chitta Sthiti. So this is the formula.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we will.
Recently, I asked a question, definition of Chandalan, if you remember.
Yeah, means I will answer that next week. So because of the time, I will answer next week.
So I was surprised why Adi Shankara should feel that way, no?
No, Adi Shankara means he prostrated in front of the Chandala. That was his beauty. Chandalostu sati dijostu gururityet esha manisha mama. He who teaches me this knowledge, whether it is a Chandala or a Brahmana or a Sannyasi, he is equally my Guru. This is Manisha Panchakam. And in that first verse, he calls this very same example. He tells, Kim Gangambudi Bimbidemba Ramano Chandala Vati Payaha. Pure Chandra, means the two example is given in that first verse. The sun reflected in the Ganges water, Ganga water, and the gutter water. It won't affect the sun at all. And second example he is given, the space the space constrained by a pot, a golden pot, and a like a clay pot. What difference it is going to make? So your body appears to be black and white, but nothing changes. This is beautiful verse. Anu, thank you very much for learning the chanting and chanting. This is good.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.